Okay, welcome back, folks. Part two with Lisa Greer, philanthropist, fundraising expert. What else? Super nice person.
Thank you.
What
Thanks
else?
so
What did I miss? Anything?
I don't know. Mother of five. People like
Other
that.
fun. Nice. So the first part of this, we talked more about for smaller, medium-sized businesses. We're going to talk about business, nonprofits, excuse me. And then today's second part two is more about for larger organizations. We have maybe 5 or more frontline gift officers. We've been doing this for a while. How do we grow this? One of the things that I always struggle with is how to not be pushy, right? Like a lot of my work, I'm calling people that nobody's called for the most part. Either they could be longtime donors, nobody just unassigned, not donors in the healthcare space, grateful patients. So it's like, it just feels like we talked about this on part one. You need to feel good about whatever we're doing. I don't want to push you, but how do I motivate you to do more? It's one thing if somebody calls us and says, "Hey, Joe, I really want to do more. I'm not doing enough," right? Versus I'm approaching you, Lisa. You've been giving $1,000 a year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Why? What can we do to better serve you? And so how, as a donor, major gift donor yourself, what do you want to see? What would you want to see from me, hear from me?
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing that I've realized is that donors, so more than 60% of wealthy people or people of means, I guess, in this country, when you look at all the donations that people are giving, about 60% of them are first-time donors. I mean, not first-time, first-generation wealthy, excuse me. We call them FGWs. There's a woman named Esther Choi that kind of coined that. So they typically did not grow up in a place where giving was part of the deal. They don't really know the lingo. So first you have to realize that there's a lot of people around that don't know what you're talking about. And they know you're a charity, you need money, you're going to tell them great things, the end. And hopefully they don't mistrust you just at the beginning because you're a fundraiser. So, and hopefully they've heard good stories. But one thing that they don't know, there's many things that they don't know, but one of them is that when you give a gift, when I give a gift, and this happened to me many, many times, I thought that I was giving a gift, period. And that you were going to say thank you, and I would get some information and I would decide what I want to do in the future. I didn't know that I was, in essence, signing up for a subscription. I didn't know that you were going to say to me next year, "Oh, we'd like you to increase your gift this year." And this happens to me all the time. And I think, I never told you I was giving to you a second year. So how dare you say, "Can you increase your gift?" I never said it was an annual gift. We never had that discussion. And we can have that discussion if you want to, but if you assume it at the beginning and say, because this person gave us money once, and what makes me crazy is, and I understand it's descriptive, but the idea of a lapsed donor, it sounds like, you're a lapsed Catholic or something, and you haven't, and it feels like you're a bad person. So is a donor a bad person because they don't know that they're expected to give the second year? And when you come around asking for the second year, they don't give you more money? Or they get upset. How are they supposed to know that? So it's really, that's one piece of just language and being sensitive to that language. Also, I didn't know until recently that you were expected to give more money each year. So when you were just mentioning, how when you're calling people and you're saying, "Can you give more?" If I'm giving a decent amount of money, and I want to say, I didn't tell you I was going to give you every year, even though, let's say I give the same amount of money. Let's say I give $1,000 a year for 2 years. And then they say, "We want you to give more." I would say, well, like, why? I'm really comfortable giving what I'm giving. Isn't that okay? And the worst thing for a fundraiser, for a donor, well, one of the worst things is hearing the disappointment in the fundraiser's voice when you tell them you're going to give them the same amount the next year.
You hear that?
All the time. All the time.
Really?
All the time.
Like, what would be a typical example?
Well, I talked to a woman the other day who is a multi-million-dollar donor, probably hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was telling her how disappointed I was with a particular organization that they hadn't been saying, they don't say thank you unless you give them more money. And she'd been giving money for years. And she gave her last giant donation was maybe 2 years ago. And so she had just given them some more money and they didn't even say thank you. And she really felt like she was kind of pushed to the side that, oh, nope, there's somebody else here who has more money and who's going to give it to us now. So it feels like there's this never ending group of, okay, you're going to give us more money each year. And if you don't, or if somebody gives us a lot more money than you, then you go, you take a lower notch on that totem pole and you're no longer our person. And that feels horrible. It would feel horrible to anybody. And I've heard that story over and over again, not always from, gigantic donors, but from 6-figure, 5-figure donors who don't understand why that happens. They just think like, did I do something? And, they either think I did something wrong and upset the person on the other end, or they think, and these are donors who've been giving for usually a long time, but they'll think that, or they'll think, what's wrong with this industry and why do they do that? Because we don't know, we don't have that rule book that fundraisers get in fundraiser school that says you are expected to give every year and to give more every year. But I have literally sat across the table from people many, many times. And when I say I'd like to give you the same amount, isn't that, I actually will say, and they'll look at me strangely and I'll say, isn't that okay? And then they'll kind of go, yeah, I guess so.
Really?
Yeah, it's really awful. And I understand they're going back to their office and they're going to say, I failed. I got the same amount. I didn't get more. And I think there's something wrong with that policy.
So you just gave me an idea, maybe going through the life cycle in your role as a major donor. So do sometimes people say, well, even though they have a capacity to give a lot more, their first gift might be low just to kind of see what the experience is. Right. So let's say we're approaching you as a donor, somebody connects us, and let's say I do approach you. Would you tend to give a smaller gift initially or not necessarily? Depends on the situation.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. The first 2 big gifts that we gave, which were 7-figure gifts, were completely unsolicited. So and that is a whole other kind of ball of wax, and that organizations don't know what to do with somebody who says, I really want to do XYZ and I want to make a difference. Will you take my money? And what I found out is that they don't feel comfortable about that. So it took 7 months for me to give a $2 million gift to our medical center that, then they didn't believe I had the money. They didn't, because my name wasn't somewhere. I wasn't in the wealth screens. I wasn't on their database. I wasn't a previous donor. And there are a lot of people running around like that. And when you have somebody who doesn't believe that you have the money and ignores you, it doesn't feel good. And I'm very, very concerned about that, which is why one of the reasons why I do my work, because I'm afraid that we're going to have a whole generation of donors who have a bad experience like that and say, I can't do this. I'm just going to leave the money to my cat or in a donor advice fund.
Wow, it's really hard to believe. So let's say it's not that size of a gift, right? So let's say let's say somebody referred me, Lisa, I understand that you have a connection with brain cancer like I do, right?
Sure.
And you feel good about it and you say, okay, do you want to see donor offers? Do you want to come up with the first gift amount?
So here's what you do. This is really interesting. Exactly what you're saying is exactly what you do. So you're asking me to tell you what a donor wants. I'm saying, ask the donor. Just say exactly that. It sounds very real and authentic and honest. It's, hey, I'm new, I've had this thing. I feel passionate about the organization. And I think as a fundraiser, one of the most important things you can do, the 2 most important things, one is listen, be a good listener. And number 2 is show that you are passionate, but show that you are passionate about the mission. And what is your connection to it? Why do you want to work in such a hard, difficult field? And that's a question I ask fundraisers all the time. Why do you want to do this? Because I'm trying to pull it from them. Like, do you really care about this mission, or are you just here to get money from me? And there's a huge difference there. And once you have that conversation and you talk about that, the person on the other end, the donor, will sort of relax a little bit, because I've now learned that we're having a real conversation, that it feels like the beginning of a relationship, as opposed to this rule that I was told in the last 2 years, fundraisers, schools, whatever, people who are teaching fundraising tell you, is that, because several people have told me this, that newer fundraisers are told not to talk about themselves. And point blank, do not talk about yourself. That's not what they want to hear. So when I have a conversation and the person feels like they're having this curated conversation with me, which really isn't a conversation, they're just trying to get something out of me, then I won't trust them and I'm less likely to give. I want as honest as the other person can be. I will trust them more. And so if you say, don't say to me, oh, well, gosh, what a lovely outfit. That looks so wonderful. And I'm wearing a t-shirt. So like, what's that about? So, I've had people be embarrassed that they checked me out beforehand. I think you should check me out beforehand. I think you should look online. It's online. It's there for you to see. I can't get into college. I can't get my kid into college without somebody, or a job without someone looking on Google and seeing what they're like. So why do we not do it? And if we do it, why are we apologizing? I appreciate that somebody is saving me time in my busy life by checking out, does this feel like a fit? And so you just be honest and you say, how do you like to be thanked? What kinds of things do you like to do? Why do you like to give? Tell us a good experience and a bad experience of when you've given money to something. And then you learn about it, and then you have a give and take, and then the person becomes a donor for years.
Beautiful. I often use the term permission-based marketing, asking permission, right? It's all about you. I love that. Thank you. And so let's say, I would ask you then, how do you what can I do to help you? How would you decide what type of gift you'd like to make for your first gift?
Yeah, well, first of all, you're saying first gift. I don't know that it's my first gift. It's a gift right now, right? Because I don't know that I'm supposed to have a bunch of gifts. So I wouldn't say.
Do you want me to bring that up now? This is our first visit.
I don't think it would be a good idea. You could say, if you'd like to start with some sort of a low gift and check us out and learn about us, that would be great. We'd love for you to be an ongoing supporter of our organization. We would love for you to know more about what we do and follow us along for years. So you're being very honest. This is what our goal is. And so, but if you say your first gift, I don't understand. And for me, I got to tell you, the way I would hear that is, well, it's not my first gift. I gave to another organization yesterday. So what do you mean it's my first gift? And so we just don't know that. And really, donors are not dumb, but we don't know the ropes, and there isn't a book. This is the next book I'm writing, is kind of really how to be a donor, the donor's handbook. But there isn't a handbook right now that tells you what the language is, what you need to know. It tells you how to structure planned giving, like you're an expert at. It tells you how tax things work, but it doesn't tell you, well, if somebody asks me to be honored at an event, what does that really mean? And what questions should I ask? Nobody tells you that. So it's really that my kind of the big kind of theory of this whole thing is do whatever would feel good to you. If somebody was trying to get you to do something, think about how those words would resonate with them if they knew nothing about this whole fundraising language or whatever. But so if it would work on, someone's grandma or somebody who's never given, ask people, what do you hear when I say that? And you'll start to understand that, oh, you know what? I wouldn't like that either. I'm just doing what somebody else said works. And in this, it may be, like I said, older donors, maybe donors who've been around the block for years and years. Maybe they like it that way, but most younger donors and newer donors, even they could be older, they're just new to this. They will not know when you say first gift what you mean.
Right. And then so the next phase, hopefully we're doing a good job of stewarding you and keeping you engaged in the mission and reporting. I would ask you, like you said, how would you like to be stewarded? What would you need to see from us, hear from us to feel really engaged and excited about your support? And then maybe I would ask you maybe I call you 6 months down the road, or maybe I would ask you, how would you like me to stay in touch with you?
Yes.
If something comes up that I think you get excited about, would you want me to make you aware of that?
Exactly that. That's exactly what you say. That's perfect. And are there pieces of the organization you'd like to know more about? Do you want to meet some of our beneficiaries? Do you want us to, so what I recommend that everybody does, every fundraiser, every fundraising organization, is that you send a survey to all of your donors and probably your volunteers as well. And you ask them 4 questions. I'm going to do this really quickly because there's more in the book about this, but you do a survey monkey kind of thing, whatever CRM you use, quick and dirty, not a lot of curating, just a survey. I just want to know these simple answers to these questions. And you ask them 4 questions. And the 4 questions are, number 1, how do you like to be referred to? Okay, so that already helps your next conversation. Is it Mrs. Whatever? Is it Susie or Jody or Doctor and whatever? How do you like to be referred to? This is not difficult stuff. Everybody knows how they want to be referred to, but nobody ever asks them. They assume, right? The second question you ask them is, how do you like to be communicated with? Everybody knows how they want to be communicated with. If you don't care, you put in the thing, it gives you several options: email, text, whatever, letters, or any of the above, I don't care. But you've asked them that question and they can answer you, and you abide by that. The third question you ask is, how do you like to be thanked? And everyone knows how they want to be thanked. Do they want a marching band, or do they want to be anonymous, or do they want something in between? And everyone will know. And they love that you'll ask those questions because it means we care about you. We see you as an individual, not as a checkbook or an ATM. And then the fourth question is, how often do you want to be notified of our progress towards our mission? And most people, and you give them options. One of the options is multiple choice, and then a blank that they can fill in. And the multiple choice questions include, as it happens. I want to know when great things happen. I want to know when bad things happen and you're in trouble. I want to know when you need something that's not financial from me. And they will say it. And very few of them will say, if you have one of your options is, I just want to know annually with your annual report, you'll see that very few people are going to check that box.
Interesting. That's great. Beautiful. And then, so just to kind of wrap up this life cycle conversation. Yeah. So hopefully we've done a good job of all that.
Yep.
Let's say a year goes by.
Yep.
And you have not made another gift yet. How do you want to be approached? Well, again, based on the theme of, you need to feel good about it. What's good for you?
Yeah.
What would you feel about, would you ever be open to increasing your support, charitable support, as opposed to doing more, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's totally fine. But what I would say is, here's where we are at this point. You gave us money. We want to show you where we are. We want to show you what that money achieved. And we want to tell you where we are now and what we need, with the hope that you will want to financially support one or more of these different things that we need, and show it to them. Show them your budget. Show them what or you can show it to them, or you can just tell them. And you can say, look, this happened, but our expenses went up this much. And so you're telling them why you need to get, the donor can't feel that you need money just because somebody told you to go get money. It has to be that you need money because it's going to be impactful. Nobody really wants to give money. Well, there are some people who give money just to make the fundraiser go away. But if you put that to the side, most people give money because they want to see that it did something. And so if you can come back and say, no, you don't have to wait a year, I think you should do it along the way more often. And that's why you asked that question. This is what happened. And hey, remember when 6 months ago I told you that one of our facilities burned down and we needed to do that? Well, it ended up costing us XYZ. We were able to get money for most of it, but we still have a shortfall of whatever. Is that the kind of thing that you might be interested in helping us with? And the person says yes or no. You can ask them point blank. Would you? And you don't have to wait till the next year, because we don't know that we made an annual gift. We know we gave a gift. So if you say to us, gee, would you like to be part of our monthly giving program as well? Totally cool. Would you like to help in this particular thing that happened? It doesn't have to be a disaster. It can just be, we have this opportunity that came up that is really great. We'd love to do it, but we just don't have the funds. Is this something that you could help us with, and maybe even make a matching gift so that we can go to other people and make this happen? And then you better make sure that you tell them along the way how that's going and when you were successful. And it's just like when your kids in school and you have the thermometer of, we've made this much money, and you see the thermometer go up, and you can say, look, this is what's going on. We're so excited. This is great. We just got another donation, and I'm going to feel great about hearing that. So that's a relationship.
Beautiful. And then the big question that fundraisers often talk about is how much to ask. Do we ask for a specific dollar amount?
Yeah.
Do we give you options of giving levels?
Yeah, I think you So some of this you would get at the first conversation, because you want to find out, how do they give? Why do they give? And if you didn't at the first conversation, you can just say, hey, I wasn't really clear at our last conversation. We really appreciate what you did. We're going to tell you some more things, or I'd like to schedule a meeting. And by the way, ask them if they're okay with it, if they want it on Zoom or in person, because I prefer on Zoom and some people prefer in person. So let us do it the way we want. It's easier for you guys. But you can say to them, instead of worrying about, am I asking you for the right amount of money and I don't want to leave money on the table, give them a sheet of paper or an email that says, here are some things that we need now. One of them can be, by the way, a great thing to ask, general operating expenses. As you know, the cost of living went up X% this year. We've used our reserves because we had XYZ problem or COVID or whatever it is. We really want to keep everybody in place. And in fact, we want to grow. Could you help us with this operational revenue? And this is how much, and that can be, here's what our shortfall is, whatever part of that you'd like to give us. If you'd like to, we would so appreciate it. And if they say, and then you give them another choice. Here's a special project that we're starting. Here's a person that you can sponsor. Here's, give them 3 different options. And, it's kind of almost like selling anything. You're going to do low, medium, high. And one of them can just be open-ended. And then based on what that person says, you may come back with more options, but you also might, you might just get an answer right there. And then someone will say, well, this really turns me on. This is exciting. Do you have, and they might even say, do you have more things like that? Or would, and the worst thing that you can do is make it feel like there's a minimum that they have to give, or you can't participate. That doesn't feel good either. So the person says, we need $20,000 for this. And the person can say, well, you know what, I'd like to help on that, but I can give you 5. Do you think you can raise the rest? And if you say yes, great, you go home. But if you say it's 5, well, we really need 20 though. And I've had people say that to me, then it doesn't feel good either. And I don't really want to do more.
Amazing. Awesome. Lisa Greer. Awesome. This is incredibly practical, tactical, which is what we always try to make these things, but it's incredibly helpful, I'm sure, for the audience and for me. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing. You are
This
amazing.
is great.
So how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So I'm at lisagreer.com, lisagreer.com. And you can, on that website, you can find out about my books, my speaking engagements, my sign up for our semi-monthly newsletter, our tips of the week that come out every week. Here's the new book. And you can see my name at the bottom. There you are. So it's just lisagreer.com. And yeah, and I hope that's helpful for your listeners.
Incredibly. Thank you very much.
Thanks.